27 years ago, 50/50 made its appearance on the screens of SABC. The objective and dream was to create a program that showed how man and nature could coexist. What you are about to see epitomizes that dream. Filmed over a 2-year period, Guardians of the Urban Raptor is a study that shows how man can change and save the natural course of our surroundings. In Johannesburg, the average motorist spends an hour and a half in their car every day, 5 days a week. The monotony of rush hour traffic dulls one's senses. The chaos that surrounds the pre-work, stressed-out citizens is kept at bay by the blinkered view of glowing taillights, leading the nearly 2 million cars to destinations within the city limits. The lucky few who break the hypnotic trance of stop-start motoring by looking around, or up, are rewarded with the most unexpected of surprises. Sights that belong in the wild, that belong in the mountains. South of the Johannesburg city centre lies the Reading interchange, a busy junction of the R59 and the N12 highways. In 2003, the first sighting of a pair of Varro's eagle, named after a French naturalist, Jules Varro, who visited southern Africa in the early 1700s, was observed in the Klip Riviersberg, close to the Reading interchange. At first it was thought that the birds were the 4th generation Varro's eagle that had made the Walter Sisulu Botanical Gardens their home since the 1940s. Or they could have been the eagles that were residents of the Telkom mast at the CSIR in Pretoria. It did not take long for bird lovers in the area to work out that this was a new pair of Varro's eagles, and they were looking for a place to nest. The birds chose a location that had amazing views of the hills that rose out of the landscape on each side of the highway. From their vantage point, they could see the small game that braved the encroaching suburbs, a constant, and up till now, reliable food source. They carried sticks from miles around to their new nest site, the Eskom pylons on the Eiger-Fordsburg power line. In 2007, the birds had their first successful breeding season in their steel cliff. It was then that Bo van der Lek and Theresa Moore from the Urban Raptor Conservation Project started to monitor the pair. In July that year, the birds successfully hatched their first chick on the unlikely nesting platform. In the 2008 breeding season, Bo recruited the help of local resident Philip Tarberton to help monitor the pair as they once again readied themselves to raise a chick on the Eskom pylon. All went well, and the birds successfully incubated their eggs, and a healthy chick was hatched in June 2008. On the 27th of September that same year, the juvenile bird was observed perching next to the nesting platform on the pylon.
Philip went to the actual nesting site because he lives close by, and I actually asked him to observe during the week to see if the juvenile has fledged, and when he came to the nest there was nothing on it.
Quite honestly, I was shocked to see all these twigs on the ground and nothing up on the pylon, not a branch left, because there had been no wind. I live in the area not far from these pylons, and there was absolutely no wind that week, so it wasn't blown away. Someone actually went up there and pulled it down. There's no other explanation.
Someone climbed up this pylon, and it's got little step-ons every 50 or 60 centimeters apart. They went up there and they totally destroyed the entire nest, and in that process probably flushed the young juvenile off the nest, and it had had to fly prematurely. It could be that someone wanted to get to the juvenile, take it as a pet, or maybe anything for Muti purposes.
If a Muti collector was going up there, why would they take the nest apart? There's no reason. But so it seemed a very malicious thing that was taking place.
Thereafter, Philip and I, we actually walked this route quite extensively to try and locate the juvenile.
To the relief of everyone, the young bird was still alive. These visuals, taken on the 4th of December 2008, are the very last sightings of the traumatized bird, prematurely chased away from its nest by a heartless act of vandalism. The confused adult stayed in the area. Whoever destroyed the nest could possibly target the adult birds next. Bo set about finding an alternate nesting site for the vulnerable eagles. Their home for the last 2 years was no longer safe. The plight of the Verreaux's eagles had not gone unnoticed. Help was at hand from a surprising source. The company, busy with the upgrade of the Reading interchange, stepped forward. They would assist in relocating the eagles across the highway to Meyer's farm, south of the interchange.
We have a designated environmental officer, and she brought the story to me. She told me about the eagles and the nest that had been damaged and so on. And that's how we got onto Bo, and it's a story that sort of just touched our hearts, it sort of grew on us. We saw that Bo was so enthusiastic about these birds, and it was such a sad thing to see that they'd actually destroyed the nest. And he came up with the idea that he was going to build an artificial platform. And I went to Exco with the thing, and I said, this is a good thing for us to give back to the environment here. Why don't we sponsor this thing? So we got one of our subcontractors involved, and we asked him to manufacture it, and that's where we are today. It's one of those stories. It doesn't matter if you're a birdie guy or not. You just, you feel, oh man, how shame. Why destroy their nest?
The late summer clouds cast an ominous shadow over the plight of the birds. Nature was driving them to do what they had always done: build a nest. In this footage, we can see the female carrying sticks back to the pylon. Bo and his volunteers had to work quickly.
We're going to pick up the remainders of the nesting material and then transport it to the new nesting platform site. I think it's always good to take the old material. Maybe it's got some smell of the eagles on there, despite the fact that a lot of rain has fallen here over the last couple of months. But it's just to gather the sticks, and we'll reuse them on the new nest that we're going to build.
Tony Niemann's word was good. In late February 2009, the completed artificial nesting platform was delivered to the new nesting site. The eagles would need help to entice them to their new home. Bo and Philip Tarberton immediately set about doing some home decorating prior to the tower being erected. The sticks that they had saved from the destroyed nest formed the base of the eagle's new nest.
We're going to cover the whole base of this platform with sticks, and so we'll build it up quite seriously. When the eagles are ready for a new breeding season, they bring in green sprays, and these green leafy sprays, they line the base of the nest with it. And it's obviously a lot softer. The female tries it, she tests it all the time until she's 100% happy. There is the chance that it may not take, but I'd rather not think that way.
On the 24th of February 2009, the construction company arrived at Meyer's farm to erect the 18-meter high structure. The 30-ton crane needed to do the job immediately encountered problems.
We're a bit stuck here with the mobile crane. It's one of those things, but yeah, with all the rain that we've had in the last couple of days, the last 48 hours or so, it's just worsened the whole thing.
Fortunately, the resolution of the team was strong, and the massive machine crawled its way up the muddy slope to complete the task at hand. None of this would be happening if it were not for the farmer who gave his permission for the tower to be erected on his property.
Ek is nou 28 jaar vandat ek my pa oorgeneem het. Is boer ek nou al hier op die plaas. Die aarde het ek opgemerk so 5 jaar gelede. Hulle habitat is nou so versteur dat ons het besluit ons sal van 'n markingsmatige habitat skep en kyk of hulle daarvan gaan hou.
The heavy steel pipes are bolted together and then welded. The platform will have to endure all that nature can throw at it.
Everything's materializing quite nicely and beautiful, man. I'm so excited. This is a dream come true, honestly. I'm very happy. I'm very excited. I'm positive that the eagles are going to take to it. They've been checking us out, flying overhead. I see they have been bringing some sticks and flying around with sticks. But that's possibly taking it to the pylon nest site. But I think once they see this and it's all ready made and it's done and it's built, I think they will take to use this nest instead of the pylon nest.
Even after having their nest ripped out of the Eskom pylon before their chick was ready to fly, the adult pair perch meters away, watching the strange goings-on in their territory. Once the mast is secured, an elated bow is hoisted up to the platform to make final adjustments to the nesting material.
Oh, I'm so happy. I tell you, I can't explain how happy I am about this whole thing. It's like 4 months of hard work coming together. Beautiful. Just look at the view. Tremendous. This is the view the eagles are going to have. To give something back to the eagles. It's something we've always wanted to do. We've always had it in mind to put an artificial nesting platform up. But now it's come together, it's materialized. It's awesome. It's a lot more quiet out here. There's not so much traffic noise. I think sound pollution is also a very big distraction to the eagles. I think we're done.
Finally, after 6 hours, the giant mast is complete.
On behalf of the Urban Raptor Conservation Project and also the Birds of Prey Working Group of the Endangered Wildlife Trust, we want to thank you very much.
Well, we're glad that we could
Immensely
assist, you know.
appreciated.
Yes, it was quite an exciting project for us as well.
I don't know what to say, but thanks a hell of a lot. It's immensely appreciated.
It's our pleasure.
And Roy?
The next few weeks will provide proof if the beautiful birds are going to accept their new home. The 2009 breeding season is now. Everyone concerned holds their breath, waiting to see if history will be made as instinct pushes the birds to continue the circle of life. There is a fear that they will return to their doomed site on the Eskom pylon. Mankind was responsible for the destruction of their last nest. Could these birds be capable of acknowledging the power of good? On the 18th of April, 2009, the question was answered.
I think you're looking at a first, at least for South Africa and Southern Africa, if not for Africa. And from what we can ascertain at this stage, it's probably one of the very few instances where a purely man-made structure has actually worked in that the birds, within 2 months of the structure being up, the birds have relocated their nesting site. It was really a leap of faith. There were no guarantees that this will or may work.
The urban eagles spend the next month and a half on top of their swaying nest, protecting their future. Then, on the 17th of June 2009, they left.
They aborted on about 60 days. Usually incubation period is 45 days. After they aborted, the birds have been around quite a lot. I have a contact here, one of the ladies here at the stables, that she SMS's me every now and again to say when she sees the eagles.
We see them every day, probably in the morning or in the later afternoon. So we see them not always together, but certainly we see them often. We don't go up there at all. If we do go up there, it's literally just to go past the mast to get up onto the top of the mountain, but we have nothing to do with them really. We leave them alone. We watch them from down here.
Bo van der Lek has a dream to see these birds breed successfully. He believes the wind may have caused too much movement on the mast for the eagles to feel secure. In November 2009, a heavy access ladder is welded onto the mast. The reason is twofold: to be able to collect the eggs for analysis if this reoccurs, and to stabilize the tall tower. On the 4th of April 2010, nearly 2 years since their Eskom pylon nest was destroyed, the pair returns to the artificial nesting platform and lay 2 eggs. This time, the ANP appears to be more stable. Bo continues his fanatic monitoring of the birds. Everything seems to be in place. The area is peaceful. There is a constant and reliable food supply. And most importantly, the eagles are safe from those who would destroy these magnificent creatures. The Vero's eagle is fiercely territorial and will protect its domain by all means possible. In early May this year, the eagles came under attack. The female leaves her nest to protect her eggs from the marauders that come from above, leaving the nest exposed and vulnerable. Crows are the bandits of the skies and always on the prowl for an easy meal. The adult eagle absorbs their relentless harassing and coaxes the threat away from her nest. Her skills in the sky and perseverance win the battle. Exhausted, she rushes back to her nest. Even eagles can have a bad day. On the 15th of May, 2010, the eggs hatch. The Cain and Abel effect kicks in, and the stronger of the chicks evicts its weaker sibling. 10 days later, the survivor is shown to the world for the very first time. For Bo van der Lek, it is a dream come true. Hopefully this youngster's future is secure, and in the next couple of months it will develop into the magnificent aviator it was born to be. This would not have happened if it were not for the foresight of many concerned citizens, guardians of the urban raptor. 18 meters above me, that life continues its unknown journey into the future. In a few weeks' time, that chick will become a fledgling and leave the man-made tower that gave it life. When it leaves, it will carry all our hopes and goodwill with it, a true survivor in the urban jungle. So when you are stuck in that traffic jam, look around and look up. It could just make your day.
That's absolutely astonishing. Since we were last here 2 months ago when that chick was tiny, we now look up and there's this huge bird up on that platform, which is why we've had to really get here now, just before it begins to learn to fly, to get it tagged properly. How's it, Jens? Sorry, can we just ask you quickly, what are we actually doing today here?
Bo's asked us to come and ring the bird, and then also depending on whether we're happy with it, to fit a tag to it. And the tag will enable us to, when the bird, once it fledges, to we'll be able to identify the bird individually.
When you get up there, what are you going to do?
Well, the first thing is a bit of concern about that chick jumping off the nest. So try and get a towel or a big jacket over it, and then once the bird's properly restrained, cover its eyes, and then from there on we'll put the ring on the leg, and then hopefully be able to fit the pterygial tag afterwards. You have the pterygial tag, which is one of these. It's similar to an ear tag in domestic stock, and on the wing you've got a fold of skin right in an area called the pterygium, and that actually goes through that skin like an earring almost, and then when the bird sits at roost, you can actually see the tag hanging off the wing, which will then give you the identification that way.
I mean, if people are out and about and they see a vulture or an eagle with one of these on, what do they need to do?
They can either email me or phone in the details. What we would need is obviously the date of where they've seen the bird. The time would be good. The location, details of the location.
Andre, how many of these have we got bombing around Southern Africa with tags on?
Vero's eagles, not too many. A couple have been done in the Western Cape, but none up here. So this will be the first for Gauteng, this bird. But apart from Vero's, we've tagged secretary birds, we've tagged fish eagles, and then also almost 2,000 vultures out there over the last 5 years with tags on. And with the vultures, we've been very, very lucky, and we've had fantastic feedback. 5,500 records of birds being seen.
Brett is about to go up and be the first person to tag a Vero's eagle in Gauteng. This breeding pair really has had a hard time of it over the last year or so. So everyone's pretty tense and just waiting to see what's going to happen.
Well, if you look at this, geez, it's almost the size of one of the adult smaller eagle species by now, and it's got proper feathering. It looks like there's some proper primary flight feathers, and the secondaries we could see from back there as well. So I'm fairly sure if we got up top there and stressed it, it would glide down from this nest and who knows how far. And then to try and find it in this bush and retrieve it and put it back on the nest, we're just risking in the end injuring the bird or losing the bird. So there's a fairly high risk especially with it sitting where it is now, that it might just actually take flight straight off the nest.
I think what's important with these is to really make sure that the well-being of the bird is first and foremost. And while it would obviously be fantastic to get this sort of data, we can't risk losing a chick which is almost ready to take flight.
I would rather let an unringed chick and an unmarked chick fly off that nest and take to the skies and have a chance, than we now compromising it by it flying off. It goes across that electric fence, we can't get to it.
So the decision from the vet side and from the Endangered Wildlife Trust side is to keep monitoring the bird and obviously to support this nesting pair, and hopefully next season to be able to get a tag onto the new chick just before it gets to the stage where it could be as well feathered as this one and have that danger of it flying over onto another property or actually falling from that nest and hurting itself.
23 days later, the artificial nesting platform stood empty. The juvenile had fledged. On Wednesday the 18th of August, these stills of the young bird were captured by photographer Siggy Anton. The juvenile was about 60 meters away from the nesting platform. Siggy tried to get close, but the adult female started to get protective of her youngster and aggressive towards the photographer. Our cameras returned to the ANP on Saturday the 21st of August. Once again, the platform was deserted. The adult female was perched about 150 meters away from the artificial nesting platform. The almost full-size juvenile would not be far away from her protective circle. The youngster is particularly vulnerable at this stage of its life. One could liken it to a toddler taking its first tentative steps in a massive world full of obstacles and hazards. The juvenile's wings were getting stronger by the day. As time passes, it shall have to learn to hunt for itself. Eventually, it will leave this area in search of its own territory. Finally, after months of observing the chick develop into the formidable raptor it needs to be in order to survive, we are privileged to see this amazing story of the urban raptor come to a beautiful conclusion. For the very first time on film, the young eagle spreads its wings and launches itself out of range of our long lens.